Good evening and welcome to The Truth About Measure U. We so appreciate you taking this time out on a beautiful Yucca Valley evening to come here and learn about a major decision for this community. And one of the reasons that we put this event together tonight is we felt that only one side was presenting facts and it really wasn't a full dialogue. And when we move ahead with something of this magnitude, we really need to look at everything carefully, in depth, and have a variety of voices weighing in. My name is Dr. Kurt Duffy. I've been a member of the community here for about 2 years. Prior to that, I've been a project administrator at Paramount Pictures, dean of a nursing school at West Coast University, and I'm currently an instructional designer at a major electric utility. So we're going to have a number of speakers tonight, and I'll give you a brief overview of what we're doing. First, we're going to go into the fine print. Let's take a look at the measure, the resolutions, and everything else that's going to impact your life so much. Then we'll have a segment called Under the Cover, where we're going to look at some of the other things that pertain to this issue. Finally, we're going to present to you an alternative that shows there is not only one option to handle this. Then finally, we're going to meet two candidates who are going to express their opinions, and finally, we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. We hope that you'll respect this forum, and we'll hold questions till the end. Please write them down. I think we're going to have some index cards going around, but we are interested in having a full and analytical dialogue on a very important technical and financial matter. Let's begin with some fine print here. This is the actual resolution that the town council voted on. How many of you have read that resolution? Have you read it before? Okay, let me see. Is there someone who could hand out the fine print here?
Can they read that?
Ray.
We're going to hand you written copies of the fine print if that's too far away. But I'm going to read it to you as well. Thank you. A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, ordering the submission to the qualified electors for the town of a local 1-cent transactions and use tax for general fund purposes at the general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 6, 2012 is called by resolution number 1215. The key point there is that this is a general fund tax. I know a lot of the advertising out there says this is the solution to our wastewater problem. When we spoke to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, they said that this was a turnkey method used in towns all over California to circumvent the 2/3 vote. That towns pick a crisis and then put forth the general fund tax to get the lower 50% and divert people away from the crisis. So please note in there, general fund reserve is the key phrase. I'm going to go on to another fine print. This is the town attorney's financial impact analysis. The town attorney is not going to put anything in there that she would not, in her own legal opinion, hold up to. Let's read this one. The Town of Yucca Valley Council has placed Measure U on the ballot, which would approve an ordinance enacting a 1-cent transactions and use sales tax within the city limits of the Town of Yucca Valley. If Measure U is approved by the voters, some of the local services and programs that may receive funding include sewer system financing and implementation, 911 response, neighborhood police patrols, streets and other general municipal services. If you were a lawyer and someone brought that contract to you, would you say that contract definitely pays for sewers? Would anyone say the way that reads is sewers are definitely paid for? No, the answer is absolutely not. But if you listen to what's out there, it sounds like we're getting sewers, we're getting bridges, we're getting a cure for male pattern baldness. I was almost supporting the measure for a while there too. Next one. This is the resolution that the town put forth because they couldn't come up with a lease agreement. We said, show us a lease agreement, show us a lease agreement. So this is a resolution of cooperative sewer financing arrangement. First line, the town commits in principle. Commits in principle. Does anyone know what that means? Commits in principle. When you married someone, did you commit in principle or did you commit? You commit. Commit in principle is like holding your fingers behind your back when you make a promise. Commits in principle. I don't think that would hold up in any court of law. It commits in principle to make a substantial financial contribution. If I told you I was going to give you a substantial financial contribution for your house, would you shake on that and say good day? No. Hell no. Never. Next one. To the currently anticipated, they're only anticipating something here, nothing's known for sure, to be approximately 70 million. Again, if I said I was going to buy your house for approximately $70,000, would you shake on that? Never. No. Next one. The district once again agrees in principles to utilize the town contribution in such a way, in manner that, one, reduces the annual sewer assessment, two, establishes a low income assistance program, three, and or, do you see that and or there? The capital component cost of the sewer service rates are reduced for sewer customers. That means you have no guarantee. This is just one of the things telling you you're not going to get your sewer assessment lowered. That and or is a huge one there. It means you may not get the other two of them. They only have to give you one of them and they get to pick. We have some other problems with the assessments that Lori Herbell will be talking about later. Another one from the Cooperative Sewer Financing Agreement. This is the last paragraph. Look what's in red there. Nothing herein shall obligate town or district to exercise its discretion in any particular manner. And any exercise of discretion reserved hereunder or required by law shall not be deemed to constitute a breach of town or district duties under contract or law. That's what's called the get out of jail free card. It means this thing has no binding substance whatsoever. So what we presented to you in the fine print, this is, you can go check, you can go online, go to the minutes of the meetings. We are not making this up. You can make your own decisions based on the letter of the law. When you get a credit card, when you buy a car, when you sign a mortgage, you read that document, right? Because if you don't read that document, you get it in the end. I'm all in favor of a capitalist economy, but a capitalist economy needs consumers who are smart. And right now, we're shoving something down the throat of our residents. That's all for the fine print. During questions and answers, we're going to take some more questions on that. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Margot Sturgis, who's going to go under the cover about matters with the Measure U.
May I have the lights on, please? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time to be here. I want to just keep some of this very brief, so I'll give you an overview. Because it was approximately 2 years ago. This started out as a joint venture with the Water District and the town of Yucca Valley, and I thought, well, that's good. These entities are working together, and it started out as a request for proposal, 75% for the High Desert Water District, 15% for roads, and 10% for parks. That would be recognizing the fact that we have a dilemma of the sewers, and that was the priority. So then I have to ask myself, well, what happened? Look at what's being proposed now. All the monies go to the town of Yucca Valley for the first 5 years. And there's no guarantee, there's no memorandum of agreement, there's no lease agreement, but they still want us to vote all these millions of dollars to go towards the town's general fund. So let's go back to October 28th, 2011. The Brim Youth Park was pulled off the Tuesday agenda, and it's videotaped, okay? And they called a special in the midweek, and they submitted a blank lease agreement that both sides objected to for grant funding. At that time, the staff said, don't worry, we'll send in the lease. We don't agree to it, both sides, but you know what? We can make a side agreement after it. That's been approved for the grants. Well, you know, maybe that's not illegal, but it's in the gray area, and it really wasn't right, and it turns out that they did not get the grant funding. In that lease agreement and in that proposal, the town was suggesting and actually guaranteeing $350,000 a year to maintain a park. And this is even before any major youth funding taxes came up. So we had a town council committing monies that we don't have. The senior housing project, the maximum was supposed to be $1.5 million. That's the most the town of Yucca Valley was ever going to have to pay for or come up with, which is a little bit more than what we had in our account. It's twice been before the town council and twice has been bumped up. And now the town council has committed $3.1 million to the project. That's $3.1 million that we do not have. That's more than what was supposedly was going to be the maximum. Going back to the general plan update, we had 2 seasoned councilmen said, wait, let's look at our budget, staff, and let's make sure we have it in our budget to do the general plan update. Staff said, oh, don't worry, we're going to put it over 3 years, $300,000 each year. And without regard for the budget, it was sent out, and an Orange County firm got the contract for $1,020,000. And staff tried to charge off $500,000 to the redevelopment agency, the Department of Finance, and they said absolutely not. The redevelopment agency money's never paid for general plan updates. So now that's become a fiscal crisis that's been created by our staff and town council. Recently, the Sky Harbor Dog Park, that's not their real name, but it's in reference to the location, they were short $250,000. And they tried to charge this off to the redevelopment agency. Department of Finance says, no, we do this to remove blight. This is a dog park. We do not pay for that. So it's been taken back. And besides, Doug Wall contract was signed in January of this year, and it missed the deadline. So staff suggested and proposed to the council, don't worry, we will borrow this money from ourselves in-house, and then we'll pay it back from the redevelopment fees that we collect down the road from building, when building comes back. At that time, it was $250,000. At the last presentation now, the internal loan is $300,000. I don't know all the details, but there's $50,000 that were spent on a lawsuit on 2 dogs that were impounded in our dog park for 8 months. We have an animal shelter that's going up. Our part is $1.5 million, and that's great. We have a partnership for that. The problem is that the architect from Upland placed large leafy trees to provide shade for the metal buildings, and guess where he put the trees? Over the leach lines, over the septic field. So now they have no money to provide for shade structures. So that's just another error. Now, the reason why you see a lot of these promotions and presentations is because the town of Yucca Valley has been authorized by the town council to spend an amount of $138,000 to promote Measure U tax in a fair and unbiased, fair presentation. And that's just what that I know of. There's other charges and other fees that they've been paying that I haven't been able to get to it. So the thing about it is that we don't feel that it's fair. And every time we've asked for equal time, we were denied, either by the radio or either by the presentation, because they're by law, they're supposed to present all the facts. And so that's why we're here today, to try to get the word out, to let you know that there's some more information that you're not hearing about. And there's rush to try to make you to give them the authority to manage $160 million over 30 years. Now, I want to make sure that I'm not going to use up anybody's time, and I do have a letter that I wanted to read into the record, a letter to the editor from Stan Zarikoff. But I just want you to know that in these past few years, couple of years, we had community development block grants that were set aside for 2 years. We promised that the nonprofits, hold tight, we're going to set aside these funds for 3 years, okay? And we're going to build a splash pad here in the community center. And lo and behold, on that third leg of savings, those monies were grabbed by staff so that they can hire a proactive code enforcement officer. And so those monies were grabbed, allowed by the town council. Now we don't have the full leg of the funding. And so now coming around another year, it's been delayed. We finally got the CDBG funds for the final funding of it, and guess what? They don't have enough money for the splash pad park. They have enough to do the upgrades, but there is no splash pad. So I just want you to know that, these monies, if you start adding them up, this is what's happened in the last couple of years. This is why they have a need to grab all the money for the first 5 years to cover these expenditures that they've committed to that have not been in our budget. And they've overcommitted. And this is wrong. This is a high roller, betting on the come. And we don't do that here in Yucca Valley. We're very conservative. We save money. And so for that reason, I'm asking you to vote no on Measure U. I would have liked to have seen the funds being earmarked right from the very get-go to the High Desert Water District. It's not being done that way, and I think that's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Next up is Lori Herbel, business person, local business person, ex-council person, and ex-mayor pro tem. Lori will tell you about the Citizens Initiative, which is an alternative to Measure U.
Hello. It's really nice to be here this evening. Kind of feel like I'm at a council meeting.
Louder.
Is this working, Kurt? Kurt, mine. Can you see if it's working?
May not have it loud enough, so I would just speak very loud.
Put it up higher. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just talk louder. How's that?
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me? I'm not yelling at you. I'm just talking louder. Okay. My name is Lori Herbel, and I love this community. I've been here for 9 years. My parents live here. I own businesses here, and it's the one thing about this community is the people. There's a lot of wonderful people here. And I enjoy serving the community in whatever capacity that I can. What I'd like to do tonight, first of all, is we are going to look at the alternative, which is the Citizens Initiative. And you're all receiving a handout right now, and I just kind of want everybody to get it before does everybody have it?
I'm going to get the slide and then
Okay.
the other side there.
So I make sure everybody. Okay, so the Citizens Initiative is a 0.5%, 30-year sales tax dedicated to the wastewater system, with 10% going to low moderate income connection reserve. Measure U proponents assert that they have the only solution. They do not. The Citizens Initiative is a fiscally conservative alternative with a lower cost that guarantees that all revenues go to the High Desert Water District. The Citizens Initiative will lower the sewer assessments. Measure U will not. So let's look at the first item, which is the tax rate. Okay, Measure U is a 1%, 30-year general fund tax. Now, what does that mean? A general fund tax means that it is passed by 50% plus 1. All that money goes into the general fund. There is no way of guaranteeing that money, as we have already seen, to go directly to the sewer. The Citizens Initiative is a 0.5% sales tax that would be guaranteed to the High Desert Water District only. And as we saw from the fine print, there's nothing that specifies that Measure U funds can pay for the sewer. Okay? Let's move on to low to moderate income connection fund. Measure U does not provide for a low to moderate income connection fund, whereas the Citizen Initiative would. Measure U does not make any specific allocation for helping the low-income people to actually hook up to the sewer. Even if people can afford their assessment, they're going to have to come up with at least $2,000 to connect to the sewer. Our plan has a particular fund, and we would decide how that would be distributed based on recommendations from the High Desert Water District Public Advisory Committee. Okay, moving on. Lowers sewer assessments. Measure U would not do this, but in fact the Citizens Initiative would. You might say, well, Lori, how do you know that? Well, Lori did her research, okay, like she always does. Whether or not you may agree with me all the time, one thing that you noticed when I was on the council is I spent a lot of time. In fact, my mom can attest that I probably spent 80% of my time when I was on the council studying and preparing and getting every fact I could possibly get before I made a decision that would represent the people of Yucca Valley. So I went and I made a phone call. And I was given the phone number of who to call by a high staff member at the High Desert Water District. And the person that I called is Diane Conkle at the State Water Resources Control Board at the Division of Financial Assistance. Diana informed me that the town has been advised that a general fund tax will not guarantee the loan for the sewer, nor will it reduce the property owner's assessment district levy. Did everybody get that? It will not reduce the property owner's assessment district levy. So what does that mean? That means if Measure U passes and it comes time to vote for the assessment district levy, whatever that full amount is, which will be dictated by the State Water Control Resources Board, whatever that amount is, you will be assessed that full amount without any reduction or consideration for Measure U. Okay? She went on further to inform me that the only mechanism that is being considered to qualify for the loan is the property owner's assessment district levy. She said that herself. It is important, very, very important, that people have all the facts before they vote. And talking with people, they are not aware, and I've talked to a lot of people today, they are not aware that Measure U will not reduce their assessment district levy. I went on to inquire from Diana Conkle. I said, what if the citizens of Yucca Valley had a voters' ballot initiative wherein we would commit all of the money to go to the sewer, which would require a 2/3 vote? I said, would that help guarantee the loan? And would that help reduce the assessment district levy to the property owners? And her answer was yes. Okay, so let's move on. Requires a super majority. Measure U, no. Remember, it only requires a 50% plus 1. Citizens Initiative, yes. Don't you think that a project this size, I mean, it's been estimated, phase 1, 2, and 3, $300 million. Don't you think a project this size and the amount of money that we're talking about, that we all should get on board, that we should have a super majority, a 2/3 vote?
Mm-hmm, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Like a pipeline.
You know, we have done this before. The Yucca Valley Community Profile, which is dated November 2011, that means it was written by the present council, states, in the late 80s, a building moratorium was instituted to address the overdraft conditions of the Warren Basin. The voters overcame that hurdle in 1990 when area residents overwhelmingly voted to approve 41 million in general obligation bonds to fund construction of the Morongo Basin pipeline. Community, we did it. We came together because we saw the need. We are strong together, and we can do anything together. And I know that that is one of the biggest things that people keep talking about. They keep saying, oh, well, we can't possibly pass a 2/3 vote. Yes, we can when we recognize that this is a physical crisis and that it must be addressed as such. Okay, let's move on. Fiscally responsible. Measure U, no. Citizens initiative, yes. You know, the town council in the past, and our dear, and I say dear, Bob Leone, because he served us for 12 years on the council and 3 years as mayor, 3 terms as mayor. So he knows. The council was always fiscally conservative. Measure U is not physically responsible. It is a huge liberal excess of unchecked government growth. On the other hand, the Citizens Initiative is in keeping with our fiscally conservative principles here in our town. We never spend more than we need to. With the Citizens Initiative, all the funds would go to the High Desert Water District, and they would help guarantee the loan and help reduce our sewer assessment levy. Okay, let's move on. Prohibits town salary raises. Measure U, no. Citizens Initiative, yes. The Citizens Initiative, by directing all funds to the High Desert Water District, will prevent any of the money to be used to increase town salaries. There has been widespread concerns that some of the salaries in town right now are too high. If Measure U is passed, it would give opportunity for those salaries to increase. The Citizens Initiative would not. Would place the money in a lockbox that would only go to the High Desert Water District, only to pay for our physical crisis, the sewer. Okay, moving on. Protected, hold on a second here. Okay, moving on. The years are catching up with me. I've taken my glasses off. Protected from graft. Measure U, no. Citizens Initiative, yes. So what do I mean by that? Well, another problem with Measure U is that it is liable to graft. The way that graft happens is that people that are proponents or support Measure U may hope that they will get positions or contacts or some other favorable treatment. The Citizens Initiative Fund would prevent this from happening because, once again, it'll all go to the High Desert Water District and only used for the sewer. Okay, moving on, developed by residents. You know, Measure U was developed by outside interests with big budgets and external consultants. The Citizens Initiative was developed by citizens, just like you and me. People that have lived here, people that have their home here, and people that plan to continue to live here and are looking how to solve this problem. Makes sense. Measure U does not make sense. And the Citizens Initiative does. Excuse me. So I ask you to think about this. Measure U is not going to solve our problems, whereas the Citizens Initiative can. And it would require a 2/3 vote, but in that 2/3 vote, we could all come together and work and try to address this physical crisis. So I'm asking you to please vote no on Measure U.
Thank you, Gloria. Our next speaker is a candidate for the Yucca Valley Town Council. He is a write-in candidate. Many of you are familiar with him. Please give a big hand for ex-mayor Bob Leone.
Good evening, folks. I'm glad you're able to come out here to get the other side of the story on Measure U. Now, I was approached a few weeks back, and people were asking me to run for the council seat. And I said, well, you know, there probably going to be some other people jumping into the race at this point. But as it happened, August 8th came by and went, and there were 2 vacant seats and just 2 candidates. Now, back when I was on the Planning Commission back in 95 and 96, the first time I got into the race was when I saw Terry Hunt and Joan Burnside at the west end of town holding hands, waving flags to the people leaving the town early in the morning. They were out there a number of times during the week. Joan Burnside was on the council. Terry Hunt, the retired CHP lieutenant, was running for office. And I was on the Planning Commission. I says, you know something? That doesn't look too good. 2 vacancies, 2 people holding hands, waving the flag to come on our town council. I had large animals at the time because I moved up here before incorporation. I own 11.5 acres up on Kickapoo. And I said, you know, neither one of these people, in fact, I tried to put Terry Hunt on a horse, and he wouldn't go near the horse. I put a couple other people on the horse, like Bill Neeb and our Brad Kilger in a number of the parades in town, as I rode a half a dozen times on my stallion in the parade. And I says, you know something, I don't know too much about Joan Burnside, but she works for the Board of Education, and she seems to have quite an attitude. I've met her on a couple occasions, and what I mean by attitude, I mean big attitude. Okay, so I jumped into the race in '96, and I was elected. I beat out Joan Burnside. I'm a retired Los Angeles police officer for 24 years. I was also a New York City policeman for 5 years before I moved in 1989 to this location because of its rural atmosphere, its wonderful clean air, and the ability that I could have horses on my property. And so I moved up here, and then in '91, when the town was going to incorporate, I got concerned. I says, oh, another layer of government, here it comes. They're going to try to get rid of the horses. So I went on the Planning Commission, not immediately, but I thought my best position would be on the Planning Commission because no one on the Planning Commission or on the council knew anything about large animals. And since I had a number of those, I knew there were certain things that had to be put in place. So I developed the animal ordinance, a number of things. And this is a long story, but I have to introduce myself to a lot of people that don't know me since I've been retired almost 4 years, come this December 14th, from the council. And we're going to get to Measure U right now. All right. I had to give a little bit of background myself because I am a write-in candidate, and some of those people that are going to write me in. Measure U, I am totally against. Not only for the facts that were presented, but we're in an economy right now that is not very good. We're in a recession. We're facing a major election nationally. We don't know which way this country is going to go. Regardless of your politics on the national level, we are up in the air on so many different things. Our business community, drive down the main corridor of 62 and see all the leases, the vacant buildings. The only thing we seem to be growing is tattoo parlors. And the fact of the matter is, our economy is not in that great shape. There is a car dealership here, and people say, don't mention, I know Carol Bell very well, and she is saved the car industry by buying Neil Phelps' place, and she moved it from the west end of town. She's very concerned because this 1% sales tax on a $40,000 car is $400 more. On a $50,000 car is $500 more. And she says that the price of gases that are going on right now at almost $5 a gallon, she can't sell a new truck. It takes $125 to fill a gas tank. You and each one of us, I just filled up my gas tank, $84 on low-grade gas to fill up 20 gallons of gas. And so we're impacted. We here in Yucca Valley are the second highest of retired senior people in the 26 municipalities in the county of San Bernardino, which is the largest county in the United States. Yucca Valley is second, 25th out of 26 in the number of retired senior people on fixed incomes. There is only one other municipality, that's Big Bear. Big Bear has a population of approximately 7,000 people, but their median income in Big Bear is $64,000. The median income along our highway here in Yucca Valley, where all the small homes and all the retired citizens, not all of them, but many of them live in mobile home parks, is $28,000 to $32,000 annual income. They can't afford. They go out, most seniors go out and eat at least 1 to 2 meals a day. It's going to affect the cost of their meal. They buy gas in town. They buy all kinds of paper products. There's a number of things that will affect them, and we are all on fixed incomes. I personally, being retired from LAPD, just lost $100 last year on some of my benefits because the city of Los Angeles is on the brink of going bankrupt, and they're taking stuff away from things that we had before. So this is a concern, and I think the main reason I was against it is this is a bad time to try to put a 1% tax, particularly a tax that's going to go for 30 years. I'm 77 years old, and they asked me the other night, what is my vision of Yucca Valley in 5 years? I says, well, God, I hope I'm alive in 5 years. But the fact of the matter is, my hope for Yucca Valley is to bring what we are mandated with the 2016 first phase of wastewater and sewer and the septic tank issue, because if the septic tanks pollute our groundwater, then it becomes a real health issue for this municipality. We dealt with an issue 20 years ago with the pipeline. We were able to pass it on a 2/3 vote for the pipeline. We can get together on this very important, mandated by the state of California, to impose phase 1 to the citizens of this town along the main corridor. And I believe at this point, if nothing else, we have to concentrate on what we are mandated. It's nice to have needs and have needs met, but what this does going into the general fund is that it's not only needs, it's wants. And the fact of the matter is, I've worked under 5 different town managers. I have yet to have one that lasted more than 5 years. So maybe it's just coincident they'll get all the money for the first 5 years, because our town manager lives 85 miles away in Fontana. He commutes every day on a $600 a month car allowance to go back and forth to work. You think he's going to want to come back and forth? He doesn't own real estate here. He doesn't live here, but yet he's dictating. I love when he turns around and says, my council. He used to be the mayor of Fontana. The only one that says my council is the mayor of this town, not the general manager when he refers to my council. He has to remember that the council hired him, they can fire him, and that he doesn't dictate to the council, that they should dictate to him by listening to the citizens of this community and bringing the input of the citizens of the community of which they are elected, to bring that to the manager that will implement the desires of this community on the way they want to grow, not some outside person that lives outside the community. coming here and trying to make this another Palm Springs. He came here 2 years ago with 1% on his lips, and he didn't even know about the sewer issue at that time. And I have it confirmed by people that actually heard him say he wanted 1% tax because Palm Springs raised 1%, and he could do it here in Yucca Valley. Well, he knows little about Yucca Valley because when we developed and incorporated in '91, we wanted a small local government. We don't want a big government shoving money down our face and making a money grab for our hard-earned tax money. We're all on fixed incomes, most of us here. Thank you.
To vote for Bob Leone, there are some simple instructions here. Number one,
Sir, I didn't think this was a campaign rally.
yeah, you have to have the other candidates your questions to yourself, okay?
Sir, but if you're gonna bring a candidate
here, you don't
have
have
anyone
one
to
yours back there. Number one, look for the blank space on the ballot under Yucca Valley Town Council. Two, write in Bob Leone exactly like that. Number three, line to complete the arrow to the right. You have to make that arrow and vote with it. Ask the poll worker if you're having trouble. And finally, vote only for Bob Leone. That way they'll get as many votes as possible. It won't be watered down by the other ones.
You know, it's not about me. It really isn't about me, folks. Believe me, I came out of retirement because I drove the first police car in Los Angeles to protect and to serve. And I'm here to protect and serve this community. Amen. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next candidate is Claude Short. Mr. Short is running for the High Desert Water District Board of Directors. I'll turn it over to Mr. Short.
Thank you, Kurt. My name, as he said, my name's Claude Short. I am a candidate for High Desert Water District Board of Directors. Please have a little bit of patience. I am going to give you a little of my background also. I started off in Yucca Valley about 1995. My first job in this area was working down at the car wash out on the highway here. I worked my way up through school. I ended up getting a couple associate's degrees and became a substance abuse counselor. During that time, working out at Panorama Ranch, I continued with my education. I ended up with a bachelor's degree. During that time, I started getting involved with what's now called Desert Arc. At the time, it was called Foundation for the Retarded. Those kids kind of grabbed me by the heart, and they still haven't let me go to today. I continued my way up through school, and I now have a master's degree in education. I've been a special education teacher at Yucca Valley High School since 2004, and I really love that job. In addition to that, I'm now, you can't see him, but I have a...
see him.
Oh, sorry.
Pull him out here.
Come here.
As the dog trainer of the community, I want you to see this dog.
Okay, anyways, I'm also raising a hero for guide dogs for the blind. This is Grant. He's a guide dog in training. So I've got connections here. I have a heart for this community, and I intend to stay here. Now, moving on to my position on Measure U. I've seen this measure has no real benefits for the school district in our area. We're facing over $3 million assessment. And for those of you who have any kind of connection with the high school, you'll know that we've lost a lot of teachers and a lot of staff because of the budget crisis. This is only going to cause some more problems for us. Most of our students, or a lot of our students, live miles and miles outside of town. They have to walk a long way down dirt roads just to get to a bus stop. These are kids whose parents are doing their best to get to work. They can't afford to have any delays, you know. Bus service has been cut along with our staffing, and it's put us, well, all of the community really in a bad position. This Measure U is not going to provide any relief for any of that. Those problems are going to continue. The latest from the California State Clean Water Revolving Fund is that High Desert Water District has not finished their applications yet. As of January of this year, High Desert Water District put in one packet, and that was the financial packet. They still have an environmental packet and a technical packet that needs to be done to even qualify to be considered for a loan. Okay, so we're kind of hanging out there in the wind with these guys. Measure U is not going to help out with that. The town is not going to give High Desert Water District any money towards any of these projects for 5 years. That's tied into the repayment on the state revolving fund loan that High Desert Water District is trying to qualify for. Now, the loan goes into repayment 1 year after construction is complete. If there's a delay, okay, let's say everything goes the way it's supposed to, we get hooked up to the sewer system in 2016. 2017, High Desert Water District is supposed to start paying back this loan. That's when Measure U is supposed to kick in, and the town has promised to start giving money to High Desert Water District. Well, if there are delays and we don't construction until 2017 or 2018, that's cutting into 2 years of the funding for High Desert Water District. The town gets to keep that money. At the far end of it, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to delay payments on any loans that you have, but a lot of times the loan agent will say, okay, we'll take this part of the loan and we'll put it onto the back end. So you actually extend your loan out by however many months you have to delay your payment. That's what's going to happen. But the tax is going to run out in 30 years, 25 years after the town has promised to pay High Desert Water District any money. So that could end up with the ratepayers for High Desert Water District holding the bag, having to pay that extra money and getting nothing in from the town. I think that's pretty much about all I have on that. I'm against Measure U for all of the reasons that have been brought up, and I intend to stay that way unless somebody can show me something that just completely dazzles me.
If I might add one more item, because I was researching this with Claude. There is one more school that's not listed up there. Onaga Elementary is in Phase 2. So we actually have 4 of our schools in the district that are really going to be impacted and need assistance. Thank you.
We are just a group of citizens who have spent an awful lot of time and effort looking into a very complex matter and trying to get our voices out so that we have an informed decision made here. $161 million is a huge cash flow, and it needs much more depth analysis than just simple slogans and promises. If you can help us, we would very much appreciate it. We need people to help us and get out the word. Most people still know nothing about Measure U. We also need donations for running a shoestring budget year up against a very well-financed insiders group. And we just need the support and the help to make sure that we save our town, not just from something that's bad, but this could be actually devastating, financially devastating to this town. Look at what's happening in other California towns where the residents do not spend enough time looking into matters. So I'm going to open it up to question and answers. Again, we are not experts, but we will try to help as much as we can. Lois.
I want more clarity on this assessment at schools. This is the first time I've ever heard of this.
Right.
Okay, what little bit I'm able to find this came from High Desert Water District, is the school district, and as a matter of fact, something that hasn't been talked about, the town is also going to be assessed. I didn't get that information from Water District, but the school district is being assessed over $3 million for Phase 1 and Phase 2 to be hooked into the sewer system. And we do not have the money.
one-time thing? Or?
I believe it's a one-time assessment, but it, oh, I'm sorry.
That
That's just-
assessment would be just like the $15,100 assessment that goes onto a house, but it was substantially more. It's all of a sudden a $300,000.
Get a microphone, please. Put a mic on it.
Okay, I'll get one in a second. Next question, Ed Montgomery.
You want me to go over there, or?
Wherever.
Well, I think it's.
Here, come over here. Microphone for the video camera.
You stand right here. My question is, if you look at the signs that you, yes on you, as I see all over town, I don't see one word, not one word that says anything about the sewers whatsoever. All I see is we're going to fix the roads, we're gonna safety and all this stuff. Doesn't say anything about the sewers. That tells me right away that I don't strongly believe that the town of Yucca Valley has the intention of giving money to anybody. They want to keep it for themselves, for their slush fund. That's what I think. I mean, to me, this whole thing started about sewers, okay? And at this point, I don't hear anybody from the town talking about sewers. All they're talking about is, I'm going to fix the road, I'm going to safety and all that. Okay, since the creation of town of Yucca Valley, which I've been here since '89, and when the beginning of the town of Yucca Valley, the way I look at it is, they always seem to say, well, we need this, we need that, and we need this all the time. They're always claiming they never have enough. I mean, we have to live in a budget. Why can't they? I mean, you don't have 300, I mean, you got 3 employees that make $500,000 a year. Town manager, assistant town manager, and the gentleman is the head of parks, okay? Make $500,000 a year. I'm saying that's, for this community, is outrageous, okay? But they want to take hundreds of millions or millions of dollars of our taxpayers' money and just have a slush fund. That's my opinion. Thank you so much.
Other questions? Yes. If you want to come up here, use the microphone. You feel inclined?
That's all right.
Okay, go for it.
First, could you explain the impact that this major view is going to be to the residents that live outside the boundaries of town and yet share the same zip code?
Would you repeat the question, Kurt, for the video camera?
Do you want to take that one, Margot?
No. Would you repeat the question for the video
Okay.
tape?
The question is, what is the impact of Measure U to people who live outside of the town but have the same zip code? And I think the concern is, will you be impacted by the sales tax if you buy a vehicle or something like that? I don't know the answer.
Actually, that's being investigated at this moment. For the folks up in Yucca Mesa and Flamingo Heights, they have the 92284 zip code. I spoke personally to the Franchise Tax Board in Palm Desert. They asked that we give them a map that would exclude the residents of that area so they would not be charged, because that use tax would not only apply and follow you, the residents where you buy a car, but also if you do a mail order, and there's a possibility that it will be applied to your cell phone bill. So that's another step that the Yucca Mesa people have to take to make sure that they are not in that tax zone to be taxed. However, we do have our Morongo Basin that comes here to buy merchandise from the town of Yucca Valley. And I have heard the Measure U proponents say, well, it's about time that they pay their share because they're coming in and they're using our facilities. Well, they're also coming in and spending their money, and we should be good neighbors. Part of running a business is paying for utilities, waters, electricity, and yes, the sewer bill. And I have to say that a lot of them have been good neighbors because they have contributed to the Morongo Basin pipeline, of which Yucca Valley is the sole beneficiary of, for overbuilding. I do not see anybody in Joshua Tree benefiting from the taxes that they are paying every year for that Morongo Basin pipeline. I think they've been good neighbors. And I think for people to think that they're trying to ride off the back of Yucca Valley and not contribute anything, that's not right. That's not true. So it is going to be an impact to our neighbors around us, because there is another situation where it was explained by the Republican party. They come out opposing Measure U, as well as our local Democratic club. I'll let Kurt talk on that later on. But the reason why they say it is because it's an impact. It'll slow down the spending. People will change their spending habit. There's only so much elasticity in the money that the people have that they do not have any additional income to come in. On a talk show, radio show, there was a gentleman that was on there that says, well, gasoline is discretionary. I'm sorry, there's a lot of folks that go to and from work. That is not discretionary income. That's money you need in order to get to work. He said that, well, you can take a bus. Not really. He said you could take less trips, stay at home more often. That kind of attitude is really not fair to our low income and our senior citizens who have no other options. They have no other way. I mean, I don't even see anybody at Walmart as the official greeter anymore. At least one person I know had a greeting job. But to answer your question, going back to the Mesa, they will be addressing that, which also, if you Google Cathedral City, they had a section of Cathedral City that fit the same thing with the Yucca Mesa. They were not in the town limits, and so their addresses were registered. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes?
Just a quick one. How much is estimated to be generated by this 1% per year, 1% sales tax for Yucca Valley?
Okay, the question is, what is the estimated revenue coming into the town by the 1% sales tax? The base year starts off about $3 million. Then the Housing study goes and it projects that based on what they call the economic cycles, and it goes up and down. So it starts at a nominal $3 million. Actually, it'll keep at a nominal $3 million, but the real number can increase and decrease depending on growth in the town, changes in inflation, and things like that. So what's supposed to happen, and none of this is guaranteed because nothing is in writing, but there's a plan by which the town gets the whole $3 million for the first 5 years, and they may give some of it back for roads or starting the design phase. We don't know because there's nothing in writing. But you're basically looking at $3 million a year. With the Citizens Initiative, it's a nominal $1.5 million, all going to the High Desert Water District to secure our state revolving loan fund and lower your assessment.
Would that be enough? The 0.5%, would that be enough to cover whatever our community payment is for the sewer system? In other words, would that cover our expenses?
Not for the whole sewer system. Remember, phase 1 comes to $125 million,
right,
and that's going to be $70 million, but then you have to take into account the interest on the loan that we're getting. So it's a very complex, but the answer is no. Even the Citizens Initiative, if enacted, is only reducing assessments by about a third. So it's still a huge number, but if it is going to be a huge number, we want that money all going to the assessment. Some people have argued for a full 1% to the assessment. The Citizens Initiative, I think, is a good first step. Actually, Measure U was a first step.
Well, to me, the reason that they put the general fund 1% on is the fact that they only needed 50%, and they figured that was an easier barrier. I mean, that's just my own personal view. It seemed like they couldn't do the 66, so they figured
right.
That would...
That is what we heard. The points that we question about that is, well, then why was there an ATM fee of $1 to the town for every dollar to the High Desert Water District? Why not just have 10% go to the town if you're only doing the High Desert Water District a favor? So that's an awful, huge service fee from the town. But in retrospect, that supermajority is there for a purpose. I've heard people badmouth the law, saying, why is it 2/3 to put in a lockbox? Well, because that means it's something we all care about enough that we're going to bond together. It's there for a reason, and it's a good reason. So I hope I addressed your question there. Mr. McBride.
Yeah, I just have a number of questions. You've bandied numbers, and they have real meaning. In other words, phase 1 is like 125 billion, but phase 2 and 3, you're saying is going to be, for a total of 300 million. where you get your numbers, because that's a lot of money. Number two, has the citizens initiative, is it just a written document? Or, I don't know the process. So has it been filed officially with anything, anyone? And number three, can an elected body today encumber children who haven't even been born? I'm serious. Think about this. If my grandsons, maybe, they're children, and I'm showing my age. But at any rate, if my great-grandchildren decided to run for office at 22, they would be obligated under this agreement for the next 30. My goodness gracious! And that's the one troubling thing I have with Measure U, in that you're encumbering people down the road. But I need to know, is your citizen initiative, is it just a document today? And where do you get these numbers? Because you're talking you're bantering a lot of big numbers.
Okay, let's take Mr. McBride's three-part question there. Part one, the first thing is we're only working right now with the 125 million phase one number, which comes from the High Desert Water District.
Don't answer 300 because
Okay, I'm going to, let me see. Did anyone mention 300 million or?
I did. And that I heard from one of the people at the High Desert Water District that, phase one was 125 million, and that they estimate the whole project, phase 1, 2, and 3, to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 million.
I hadn't heard anything like that.
I would also,
The advisory.
I would like to say something about that $125 million. Just recently, a president of the Water District, Saran Graham, said that there was a lot of padding in that figure, and they really don't have the facts. In fact, Mark Nuemi, the town manager, stood here and said, in 1 year from now, we will have more information about everything, because they just now gave out the collection system design. So that's an important piece of what is it going to cost us. And you have to remember, the biggest impact is going to be phase one, because that's the building of the plant. Phase two and phase three will be the collection lines. We're talking about distances, and God forbid there is no big boulder down in the middle of downtown Yucca Valley. We won't know until the numbers come in from the collection system. And that's why the Citizens Initiative wants these funds to go to the High Desert Water District. They have needs today. They have to pay for these collection system costs. They have wastewater needs today to get this online and get it going before all these costs start going up. And I do believe that the larger figure was mentioned was factoring in inflation as well. Thank you.
Okay, and for Mr. McBride's second question, is the Citizens Initiative a formal resolution at this point? No. But I'll tell you what, this group of people here has learned more about financing wastewater treatment projects in the last 3 weeks than anyone would care to. And I have to say, I really respect the High Desert Water District for what they're taking on here. It is amazingly complex. What we have is that we know it will be a supermajority, 2/3 vote in a lockbox dedicated, and we'll put in the little wording there that 10% goes to a connection hookup fund, which means 10% of that money distributed in one way or another as the Public Advisory Committee sees best will do that. But we're sitting there and we're going through, Lori Herbell called up Diana Conkle, we're sitting here, it's a lot of data, a lot of steps and everything, but we think it should be done right. And I gotta say, we do have to give our council and the High Desert Water District for picking this thing up and moving it ahead. But that's no reason to jump on, something that's half constructed. Your third question, do we have the right to saddle our offspring with...
Does an elected body today have the right to encumber an elected body 20, 30 years from now? It just doesn't seem fair.
I'm going to turn that one...
I know that they do it in government.
Right.
Yeah, they do it in government.
If you're talking about an elected official, elected officials are elected currently. There's no guarantee that a council 10 years from now can have a different view of this. There's no guarantee that they will abide by what was taken, as mentioned in the beginning of this program, that this is in principle, but things change over a period of time. Things changed. It's much like the federal government encompassing, in a different respect, encompassing generations. This is a generational tax when you talk about a 30-year tax. But just like the federal debt at $16 trillion, that's going to impact my grandchildren's grandchildren, you know. And so this is something that is there to be noted. We're talking about a 1% tax. It doesn't have the magnitude of the trillions of dollars that the federal government has incumbent and borrowing money from China and all this type of stuff. But we have a lot of problems in this country. We have a lot of problems going on, but we have a problem here that's facing Yucca Valley that is a mandate, and that is our wastewater. That is the crisis that we have at hand. It's understandable that the town manager, his job is to look after the town and take care of things. And there's such a thing as certain needs that have to be met. But this seems to be, in my opinion, a money grab at this time that is poorly planned, and the way it's constructed, taking on the fact that it came along with a crisis and has been imposed here for a period of 30 years. I think it's a basic money grab right now, and whether you agree with it or not, we have needs in this town, we have growth, but I sat and watched just the other day our town manager talking to a group of elderly people in a mobile home park, and where you see the badges on that one sign that say yes, and you see the police sheriff's badge on there, he's stating to these people, placing a certain amount of fear in their hearts, and this I heard personally myself. I didn't interject. As a Los Angeles retired police officer, I saw this individual place a fear in these people by saying, you know, right now we had 2 armed bandits hold up a cash place, and we had 3 cars come in and they arrested these people. But you know, in the future, they're releasing all these people from jail and they gravitate up to Yucca Valley, and you know, if we don't have enough money to pay for our police, we might only have 1 policeman out there that could respond to your crime, and he's putting this fear factor. So what happens? A bully puts a fear factor in people, and that's what's happening right here. In that particular instance, I heard it myself.
Okay, we have a question here.
It says that the funds will go to the high water district. It doesn't say it specifically goes to the sewer.
Yeah.
A good question. That's something we looked into. The question is that our initiative says that the funds go directly to the High Desert Water District and not specifically to the sewers. We are working on that, and we do want language that says goes specifically to the sewer. We're going to have further discussions with Diana Conkle and see how we do that.
I want to mention something that you brought up twice now. The issue here is, are the people of Yucca Valley really represented in this situation? And 50 plus 1 does not represent the majority of the people living here. My wife and I bought a home here just before this became a town. We moved here because we liked the community the way it was. Then the people voted. To give you an example, what happened with 50.1, or plus 1. The people voted 50 plus, just a few, as I understand it, to become a town. Then I had some hope after that. One of the first town council people, or town council itself, hired some professional people to come in and say, well, what was best in developing the town or community of Yucca Valley? It was suggested by professional people that this become a tourist community, so they wouldn't have to provide schools and infrastructure, sewers, etc., because we have the proximity to the
National Park.
Which is now the national park. Over 1 million people traveling here in and out. So that gives you an example. Anyway, think about it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I'm just going to briefly summarize. Gentleman had a concern that 50 plus 1 was not a true majority. Other questions?
You said that there are 3 employees of the town that make over 500,000, or is it a total?
I think that was, Ed, was that your comment? Do you want?
My comment was, and that's, I did research on that.
Total.
And you got one employee, makes 200,000, the town manager, you got assistant town manager who makes 150 approximately, and then you have the person here who Parks and Rec, and he makes another 150. Add up 3, that's $500,000.
And I might add that that includes their benefits as well. There's others.
Next question right here.
We had a gentleman earlier ask you guys about Measure U.
Uh-huh.
And how that was going to affect him, because he doesn't actually live in the town, but he does shop here and that. How does your citizens initiative make that any different for him?
Okay.
He still has to pay that sales tax.
The question is, how does the Citizens Initiative make that any different? Basically, the only way it makes a difference is it lowers the impact by 1/2. We understand, I understand more than anyone, that sales taxes are extremely regressive. I am not in favor of sales taxes because they hit single mothers, elderly people, students, fixed income people the hardest. But you know, as I listen to Measure U, and I'm not an unreasonable person, right, Mike? I think you can attest to that. I'm not completely unreasonable. Maybe some of my relatives in the IRA, but I'm a little bit more easygoing here. Okay, I do think maybe we can get a little bit out of the sales tax. But if we take it down a little bit, that is going to reduce that impact. So I do think there's a little give and take there. So it won't be half as much, but I still think our Citizens Initiative is a good second step, and there's probably room for improvement from there. Follow up?
So how do we address our road issues, our backlog of road issues, our flood control issues, or the, we talked about the,
Right, right.
How do we address all those issues that we cannot
Okay.
pay for?
I'm going to quickly address that, then turn that over. The question is, how do we address our backlog of other town needs? From my perspective, those needs arose when Measure U arose. I've been up here for 2 years, and I got to tell you that I didn't move here and say, wow, the roads are really terrible here, wow, there's no safety, wow, we need this and that. But I'm going to turn it over to the people who have done more research on this fact.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that question. You know, the town is in its 1991 we were incorporated, November 1991. We're now in 2012, 21 years ago. We have a Measure U fund, which comes from the San Bernardino County Sandbag. Measure I. Measure U has been on my mind lately. Measure I fund. This comes as an allocation from Measure I for the roads. And a number of reasons we got this funding, because we have the MBTA, which is services the community. I was on the MBA board, the MBTA, which is our bus service locally here. And they have allocated, up to this point in time, we have gotten money. The current money that you see being used out there was an allocation, I believe it was $1.7 million, all this road construction, which is a very timely thing just before the elections. You saw how our roads are being improved. And we have kept abreast of most of the incidents. I live on a dirt road. I've been in my house 23 years. Mine is an undedicated road, so it doesn't get one dime of attention, and that's okay with me because I love my dirt road and I want it to stay that way. If they pave it, the people coming down the road, they're doing 30 now, they'll be doing 50 on a paved road, so they'll slow them down a little bit with the bumps here and there. But the fact of the matter is, we do have allocations of money that comes in from Measure I and keeping abreast. What I'm saying, in this time of recession right now, to impose an additional tax that supposedly is going to go for road improvement, and most of this is going to be done, is that when we do get the sewers, what happens, and has happened in the past, Yucca Valley paves a road, and then the High Desert Water District that has underground old lines, you've seen it on almost every road. They come in and they rip up the newly paved road and put a street in there, and they don't seem to put it back like the way it was. Well, that's what he's talking about when the sewer issue takes place and the sewers are coming in. That is supposed to take care of some of the additional money that we need for the repair of a road that was already, that's being ripped up with, because of the sewer system as it has taken place. And because a lot of this money is needed, I can understand where he might want to put the money from Measure U into that fund. But believe me, the responsibility should be with the High Desert Water District. They have people that pave the road, pave the damn thing the way it was before, and take care of the problem if you're ripping up the road. But we do have Measure I money coming in, and as I said, we have done a great job in the 21 years we have been. When we first incorporated, our roads were terrible. The county didn't take care of us at all. We did want local control, and we created parks and a lot of other things along the 21 years that we've been in existence. But right now, because of the economy the way it is, I think we have to look at us, all of us have to look at our pocketbooks. There's things we want, but there's definite needs that we have to have, and we can't be having extra money taken out of our pockets in this situation with Measure U.
Any
Measure
other
U
thoughts
should be
on this
used for the
point?
sewers.
Margot?
Yes, I just want to say that the flood control situation has always been a problem here. Many folks feel that the overdevelopment of the hillside reserves have created the problem, so that's been a real struggle. The Long Island Channel study, that's a problem because the town does not own the easements to that property, and it's a huge project. It's a government project, and they require matching funds. So that is something that probably will not be addressed for a very, very long time because the town of Yucca Valley was not collecting impact fees, and we have no money for impact to match the funds for that Long Channel Island study and that problem.
This initiative prevent raising town salaries or limit graft. Number one, because the money goes directly to the High Desert Water District, the town never gets its hands on it. So it prevents raising town salaries. However, does it prevent raising salaries in the High Desert Water District? That's the point we're still working out. We want it to prevent.
That general fund tax, which is Measure U, goes into the town's coffers, and they decide how they want to spend it. They decide where they want the money to go. It can go to pay salaries. It can be used to buy paper clips. It can be used to purchase paper. It can be used for anything that they need. It says on the fine print for general fund expenditures, and that's where we have a problem with that. We understand that the town has their needs and what have you, but you know what? It was really not the right thing to do to try to grab that whole penny. There are no more pennies to grab. There's nothing set aside for emergencies. The emergency is our sewer system, and that's why the Citizens Initiative says, let's put 1/2 penny aside, designated for the sewer only. And what happens with the rest of it, it will be up to the citizens what they want to do. I myself, I own properties here, and I'm concerned. I would like to see a parcel tax just for the parks. We all love our parks, and I do think that the owners of the parcels will definitely pass a tax just for designated for the parks, so that doesn't get used for anything else. There's other ways to do it. You can form special assessment districts for your particular curbs and gutters in your neighborhood if that's what you want to do. But as far as other alternatives, we didn't see anything. All we were doing was being presented this show, this presentation, a litany of all the things that this Measure U is going to do, and we didn't hear other options. We didn't hear the other side of the story. We didn't hear the other concerns. And so that's why we are a little grassroots committee here. We've done our homework, and if you doubt any of the figures, you can leave your email address. We will email you the Husing study. We will email you the request for qualifications for the Fieldman roll-up studies, and you can look them over yourself and see for yourself. I mean, this is something that we are not taking lightly, but we really urge you to vote no on Measure U. We feel that taking of the whole penny and putting it in the general fund is not the way to go. and we ask you to vote no.
Okay, who'd like to address what happens if Measure U fails?
That's a good question, because the proponents are saying, oh, well, look at you scraggly little people, you don't have the money, you don't have the money to put it on the ballot. Well, guess what? Our town council has called for a ballot measure on March, so we don't have to be blamed for costing money to the town of Yucca Valley. That's why we first need to defeat Measure U. We have the groundwork for the initiative, we have the template, we have the studies, and we will have to go through the initiative process. We will have to get signatures, and all of us are here. I mean, we're knocking on doors now to defeat Measure U, and we'll be knocking on those same doors to have the people's initiative pass to promote that. Thank you.
So it would be in March when the special election for the...
Yeah, and that's what we're shooting for. That's what we're shooting for. That's why we're presenting it to you now, the Citizens Initiative, so that when you go to the polls and you vote, you say you have a choice. You have an option. So, and we want to do it that way so it doesn't cost anything extra. Actually, any Citizens Initiative can be put on a ballot at any time, depending on the election cycle, but there's a cost involved, and we don't want to do that. And we really want to try to be within this real tight budget, real tight timeline, and we need your help. We need your help for that.
And I just want to comment on that. As I've talked to people, I've promised them, and people know I keep my promise, that if Measure U fails, that we will work our very, very best to get it on the March ballot. A citizens initiative, a citizens voter initiative to help to pay for our physical crisis, the sewer. So you have my personal promise, and I have not broken a promise to this community. I'll work very, very hard.
Okay, sir? We'll come back, sorry. Okay.
I believe it was stated here earlier that this has been, the state mandated this 20 years ago, that the town's got to have sewers, am I correct?
No, that has not been mandated 20 years ago. The crisis with the septic issue is as we relieve the moratorium, and that's the reason we had a moratorium originally, because we didn't have enough water resources in an aquifer, and as the town was growing, we needed the pipeline because we're a desert community. As you know, we don't get much rain up here or snow impact, and we're basically a desert community gets 4 inches or less of rain. We generally get less than 2 inches of rain up here. 29 Palms gets a little bit more rain than we do. But the fact of the matter is, that was passed on a moratorium because as this town started to grow, as we incorporated right after that, and the growth pattern was coming up here, more people were moving up here and retiring, they saw that the need of the groundwater was not going to be adequate to support the growth in this area. So that's why we got the pipeline in. But as far as your question goes, as far as the mandate with the wastewater, that's because we have had the growth and we have all these septic tanks on these little half-acre or less, quarter-acre lots, one after another. And our aquifer is just below us. If we would have a major earthquake and we had some seepage and pollution into our aquifer, that becomes a health issue. That is when it becomes the necessary means for the town, because a health issue, the water company, the High Desert Water, they're supposed to supply us with an adequate amount of clean, good water. But the town kicks in if that water supply becomes polluted and a health hazard, then it becomes an emergency. And this is a mandate from the state to prevent that from happening, because we have so many septic tanks in this vast area along our phase one, along the business corridor, and that's why it's cost so much for some of our businesses. They've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into these restaurants to try to maintain a septic system that would be acceptable. And that's why this wastewater and the plant is the first phase of phase one, and the elimination of the septic tanks and a sewer system on our main corridor. I don't know if I'll be alive, as I said, to even see phase two come about, but phase one is a mandate in 2016. That is the crisis that's facing this community. That is truly a crisis. In fact, in the words of the manager, he alluded it to the Landers earthquake. He said, The thing that's facing Yucca Valley is as great and greater than the Landers earthquake that affected this area. As long before he even knew about Yucca Valley. But the fact of the matter is he alluded it to that and said he does not want the town to be bankrupt by the sewer system. But I'll tell you, we have to take this measure seriously, and the assessment to our properties are going to be the only means to really get to and clarify this issue, and that's going to have to be coming as an assessment district down the road. If this is passed 5 years from now, when the assessment districts, because they will be assessed for the total amount as whatever it's determined at that point, that's going to be the assessment district, and according to the High Desert Water District, it's going to be determined to some extent on the amount of water usage you use. I don't know their plan into the assessment on each property, but it's going to be a large amount of money, particularly for those people that have these small homes on these quarter acres that are on fixed income. They'll lose their houses, you know, because they won't be able to absorb. Most of the houses have taken a nosedive, including my own, underwater. Most houses are underwater right now as far as the value of the homes. So when you're building a community like Yucca Valley, which we're still in our growth rate, you have to provide a healthy system of sewers and wastewater along our business corridor that will bring business in. Because right now businesses don't want to come here. It's too damn costly, and they don't want to be imposed with, they don't know what figure they're going to be assessed for to come into town. So it's bad for business in the state we are in right now. That's why if we have something, particularly for a tax, 0.5% or whatever initiative that we have, and that's one of the options we have, there's different options there, then people would be encouraged that this is going to be taken care of spot on without this out here and all these by principle and all this thing that we're guaranteeing, and then you see signs along the highway. Believe me, is this an overkill? Did you see how many yes signs came up? My God. I mean, it's an overkill. And you know, whenever you see an overkill, yeah. Okay, your question, did I answer it?
When was the town aware that we were supposed to have a sewer system?
Well, initially they knew they knew it was going to be down the road.
It was quite,
They
it was
knew
quite
it
a
had
while
to be
back.
down the road, but there was no
So-
mandate. We're talking about a mandate.
In 1991,
Yes?
this town incorporated. And you set up there, sir, and you said, I am proud of my 3 terms of mayor.
That's right.
12 years of public service.
We had a lot of things to do. We had parks to build, we had roads to improve. Where do you think we are today? We're a hell of a lot better than we are when we incorporated. We have much better roads. We have parks that didn't even exist. I can mention 4 parks that we have now, plus a tennis court, and we took over the swimming pool from the school because the school couldn't take care of it. We had a lot of problems in that place, but we didn't have the mandate set at 2016
May
as
I
we
say
do today.
something? There's a High Desert Water Director, a Board of Directors running for office. He's been a director for 13 years. What he says is, let's not look back, let's look forward. So the same issue that you're bringing up towards Mr. Leone, why didn't he do what he was supposed to do? We could ask that of also of the High Desert Water Board of Director, who was on for 13 years and did not bring in a sewer project. So let's drop that rhetoric, please, and let's all come together and move forward. Okay.
The third part of my question is, this was said, it was said.
On the March ballot, on top of which we're going to be able to vote for a town council member filling a seat. You have to remember that there are so many people being impacted. The hotels and motels have a huge assessment. It's based on your water usage. So if that bed tax is raised and it helps them, offset them, that's what that might be on our ballot to help them out. But we're concerned about the people in phase 1. We're concerned about our school districts, a lot of the people that are not going to have any assistance, and that's why we want to defeat Measure U. We want to send it back to the drawing board, and we have the initiative, the Citizens Initiative, to earmark these and lockbox them. And I'll let Dr. Duffy wrap up the meeting because
We have
we're being
one last
charged.
question from
One
Ray.
last question, I'm sorry.
I'd like to use your
Okay.
Ray Packard, citizen of Yucca Valley, Phase 2. First of all, I'm sorry that the yes people left already because I wanted to address some of their concerns. Everyone was invited to this meeting. Everyone. So the candidates that didn't show up, we missed them, but it was their choice not to be here. Everyone was invited. So I just wanted to address that concern. Also, going to the meetings at the Chamber of Commerce and speaking with Mr. Nuemi, Jennifer Collins had asked, if Measure U doesn't go through, how will we pay for the roads? And Mr. Nuemi was very eloquent in explaining the town of Yucca Valley's budget. And I'd like Lori, if you could address that.
Sure.
And how, if none of this goes through, if the Citizens Initiative, if Measure U, if none of the taxes go through, how will the town survive? And Mr. Nuemi put it very eloquently. If you can ever go to the chamber meetings and ask him that, he explains it real well. But Lori also knows the answer too, and I'd like her to address that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to quote, because I love to quote, from the Town Council agenda. This is their budget for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. And it says, quote, "The proposed budget for 2012-2013 is a balanced budget, with anticipated revenues exceeding anticipated expenditures by $232,000, including a $10,000 contingency account," unquote. Quote, "Emphasis on stable reserves, continues to implement the council's current reserve policy, and provides for a solid level of reserves, both designated and undesignated. The budget identifies a reserve level that exceeds the upper end of the council's adopted reserve policy," unquote. Quote, "While the town revenues have experienced contraction over the past 3 years, the town anticipates that fiscal year 2012-2013 will start the gentle upswing of our economic cycle, translating into modest growth in retail sales," unquote. The town budget for 2012-2013 is $9.4 million and is balanced. I would like to just go on to say one more thing. I know we're running out of time here. That all of us want our property values to increase, and we realize that the sewer would very much help that. Correct? I mean, we're kind of all suffering this economic downturn and the bubble that caused the collapse of the housing market. So if our sewer is put in place, that is going to increase the revenue here at Town Hall. Okay, the town will get more revenue. Restaurants will come in. Our property values will increase, and we'll have a lot of people, influx of people coming in. So just think about that. It will increase revenue for the town if this.
Okay, let's have a big hand for our presenters and our helpful staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for all of you for being here, asking questions and being involved. We have donation cards over here, more information. We need your help. We're going to block this, but we need your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vote no.